Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. This is our earnings reaction. I'm going to be joined in 1 second by our own Hans Albrecht, but I want to tell you what, I just want to remind you why we're here. We have 4 massive earnings today. Google, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft. They're all out. They're all moving. And it's time for us to react. Now, with joining me is our resident expert on AI and our head of income trading. He's been running the great income reset. Sometimes I have trouble getting that out. He's been running the great income reset Tuesday, Wednesday, today, and tomorrow. Tomorrow, he's going to be showing you exactly how you can create your own dividend stream. So make sure, if you haven't signed up yet, that you are registered. Drew, can you drop in that link to make sure people are registered up and get that pinned? Also, at the top of that cheat sheet, at the top, you're going to see that cheat sheet that we built so that you can track these earnings for yourself. So make sure to register. So with that, let's bring in the man who has led us here at Option Pit through this AI super cycle while just ratcheting up his income, turning that 60-40 portfolio on its head with his amazing income trading. He is Option Pit's head of income trading, Hans Albrecht. Good afternoon, Hans. We have earnings out. And the first one I want to hit on is the one that is currently doing the best, and that is Google. Now, you and I had talked about OpenAI on Friday or on Monday, or was it Monday or Tuesday? Monday. And OpenAI had just come out and said, we're not hitting the active users that we want. We're not growing the way we want, but we're firing on all cylinders, which is, basically we're doing our best, but we're not getting there. So I was really interested to see what Google had to say because, everyone knows there's Claude and OpenAI. They're like their own AI thing. And then there's the two that are integrated, which is Gemini and Copilot. Copilot is Copilot. We'll talk about that in a bit. But Gemini is probably the one that people are using every day and often. I wanted to see what that user growth looked like. And I'll tell you, pretty darn good. Google comes in with a revenue of $109.9 billion, the estimate, 107.2. Cloud revenue, $20 billion. They upped their dividend to 22 cents. Total paid subscriptions reached 350 million, with YouTube and Google One as the key drivers. Strongest quarter ever for consumer AI plans driven by Gemini app. First-party models like Gemini are now processing 16 billion tokens, not per day, not per hour, per minute.
That's incredible.
Q1 beat on revenue. Dividend was raised. Everything about Google was good. And it's bearing the fruits. It's up approximately $13 right now.
It's the winner, right? It's the outlier. It was interesting, Mark, because the performances we've seen from these particular names have been so different. Right? We've seen Google run to all-time highs. We've seen Amazon run to all-time highs. And we're seeing Microsoft still well off its all-time highs of about 550, trading down around 424 on the close. And it really felt like they were all kind of poised for the expectation that's out there that, Google is kind of one of the big leaders. We know that Gemini kind of took over last year. So we expected really good things out of them. So I think that's great, encouraging news that they're actually beating and they're trading above it looks like YouTube a little bit of a miss. That's a little surprising to me.
It is surprising considering you and I are currently streaming on YouTube. It makes
That's
zero
right.
sense. There's
that's-
thousands and thousands of people watching us right now.
That's all my kids want to watch is YouTube now. They don't watch Netflix. They watch, they love YouTube. They'll watch, I don't know what it is. They'll watch somebody play Minecraft for hours.
They will.
Doesn't appeal
they
to
will.
It's incredible.
The greater point is that and these are paid users, 350 million people that are paying for that access. YouTube is free. Just absolutely a bananas quarter. Folks, OpenAI scared the bejesus out of the entire AI cycle. Google is bringing you back home.
Yeah,
data center providers like Iris Energy or things like that, they are going to have a great day tomorrow for the most part. Now, I want to hit on, I want to kind of circle back to these ones we've hit on each of them. The next up on our list is Microsoft. It was already down today. It's down another $8. Let me read you what their earnings looked like. Revenue of $82.9 billion versus an estimate of $81.4. They earned $4.27 a share. That's $31.8 billion. Productivity and business processes came in ahead. Intelligent Cloud, almost $35 billion. $13.2 billion from personal computing. Microsoft Cloud total $54.8 billion in revenue. Azure and other cloud services grew 40% year over year. That is a massive headline. You would think that would drive everyone crazy, but apparently they don't like the spend. I'm looking for the number here. I had it up, but that spend came in pretty heavy, and they are penalizing Microsoft for it.
Yeah. CapEx down, is it down a couple billion? Not much. Microsoft, I don't know if they mentioned anything about Copilot. Copilot's been sort of the ugly AI kind of kid in the room sort of thing. Like they really haven't, nobody uses Copilot. So I wonder if there's something in there about a lack
Copilot
of excitement around that.
That's probably come on the conference call. They're kind of married to ChatGPT. So my hope is that they eventually, merge OpenAI and make that the agent that you use in Excel, because it'd be much more valuable. But right now, Microsoft looks rudderless would be the term I would describe it as.
Yeah, and it really is kind of, even though it's one of the strongest ones from a balance sheet perspective, it is the one that sort of lives a little bit more in that that agentic disruption world, right? That sort of world of operating systems, and I know somebody who's quite the tech kind of tinkerer, and he feels that the operating systems are absolutely going to be disrupted. So that they sort of live in that world a little bit more than, say, a Google or Alphabet, which really has that full sort of vertically integrated stack, right? That's what people really like about Google. And I think we're seeing more of, it's a little bit surprising to me, because they sort of priced the winners for to perfection, and Google's doing well. Amazon doing okay, down just a smidge, was up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we'll get to Amazon in a second.
Microsoft seemed like they didn't have much of a bar. Like the expectations were so bad, it really wouldn't have been difficult.
And yet, when the bar is low, Microsoft will find a way to miss that bar.
Yeah, that's right.
And they did this time. Now, that being said, my hope is that they push this toward 400 and I can go long again. I put out a letter in my editorial about how I use leaps as a part of my trading. And I pointed out, when Microsoft was at 390, 395, I bought the 390 calls for $40. It ran to 430, and I sold them at over $55. I spent $8,000 to make a little over $3,000. That's like a almost 38% return. If I'd bought the stock, I would have made a little bit more money, but my percent return would have been 7. That's one of the reasons why I love Leap so much. I'm going to be looking to do that again, and I believe Leaps are going to be maybe a little bit of your discussion tomorrow, Hans, when you're live.
That's right. That's right. They're one of the great tools out there, and they're very misunderstood. And we're going to sort of lift the cover on that sort of term Leaps. It's not as complicated as the term might lend us to believe. So definitely check that out.
Absolutely. Join me and Hans tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. All right. Now, I want to go to Meta. And Meta is if Microsoft is, missing the bar, Meta didn't bother to jump. Their revenue came in $56.3 billion. Great. Estimate was 55. So they beat that. $10.44 earning per share, 41% operating margin, 55% ad revenue, capital expenditures, $20 billion in Q1. Total full year 2026 guidance, expenses are looking at 162 to 169 billion, and capital expenditures 125 to 145 billion dollars.
Go big or go home.
For what? What? What AI does Meta have? Like, I'm sorry to get like excited here, but what the heck are they doing? There's no metaverse. That's gone. They just went, hey, we just pumped $100 billion in this thing, and now we're going to go poof.
The llama, they're going for it. They're going for, AGI. I don't know, Zuck doesn't go halfway, right? He goes all in, and he's determined to spend. That's going to be good news. I think if there was anything, we talked about this last week, Mark, and I said, this OpenAI news isn't really news. It's very OpenAI specific. This doesn't mean there's any slowdown in the demand for compute and the demand for AI. And we're seeing that here. These guys are just spending because it is really, as we discussed, it's sort of this knife edge of, if you don't spend, you are maybe not going to secure the next 50 to 100 years, because that's how big these times are. We will look back in 30, 40 years and go, wow, 2025, 26, 27, those were absolutely monumental changing years. And this is what these guys are doing. So there is a panic out there. You've got to spend, and you don't know if it's going to be spent wisely, but I think there's this sense that you've got to go for it. And that's what's going to make the results over the next couple of years very interesting. We don't know who's going to get this right. We have a sense that it's going to be Google, and as for the others, and probably Amazon. But as for the others, don't know.
I will say, with how much money they make, do you know how many people used Facebook, Instagram, or do you know how many active people, the daily active people, touched a Facebook product?
3 billion
on a daily basis in the month of March. 3.56 billion people used a Facebook Meta product in March, per day in March. You know how many people there are in the world?
8, maybe 8. They're about half the people in the world, pretty much, right?
Currently, there are 8.3 billion people in the world. That means 3.56 billion.
It's incredible.
That means 43% of the world touches a Meta product every day. So what does that mean for you guys at home? Remember me, MetaQuest, huh? You remember what I just said about Microsoft and Leaps and hoping that it drops. I see Meta get into the 500s. There's going to be an opportunity for me to use Leaps to express a bullish opinion, because they may be spending way too much on who knows what. But you can kind of do that when 43% of the world touches your products every day.
It's binary, Mark. This market is really we're seeing it in the Mag 7 or the Mag, whatever you want to call it now. It really is very binary because of how opaque the future is beginning to look because of all these tools, all this disruption. And they are going to continue to reward a company like Google, and they're going to continue to punish Meta until they see that this isn't just a massive waste of money. There's no question their revenue is incredible. They have an incredible reach on the advertising side of things and in all these products that you're talking about. But there's a very real worry that it is burning Benjamins.
Yes.
And we want to see, and this kind of market wants to see the evidence. If they see positive evidence, this thing can go up 50% like it's nothing. But that is the state of this market. It is winners and losers, binary, and everything in between is just noise.
All right, now the last one I want to hit on is Amazon. Amazon's currently down about $5. Not a huge move by any means. Net sales 181.5 billion versus an estimate of 177.3. Operating income 23.9 billion. Net income 30.3 billion. Diluted EPS 2.78. AWS sales $37.6 billion, up 28%. Fastest growth in 15 quarters. Operating income from AWS, $14.2 billion. AWS as a company is worth, if you just broke out AWS, Hans, that's $1 trillion company.
Well, and that's good point, Mark, because that is also what the market recognizes as well. So you look at Waymo, I think they're saying is valued at about 130 billion already. So they've got they're up to 500 million rides. So these companies that have these other sort of fingers in these other pies are doing very well. We haven't even talked about chips, TPUs, Amazon chips as well, TPUs for Google, Amazon. So these other businesses, and then, Amazon has a chunk of Anthropic as well. And so, I mean, these companies, if you look into what they own a little piece of everything, right? They're like, I mean, So, and these are all very valuable.
Yeah. Amazon's operating cash flow was $148.5 billion. Free cash flow, $1.2 billion. Decline was driven by a $60 billion year-over-year increase in property and equipment purchases. Gee, Hans, what do you think those property and equipment purchases were involved in? What would you say? AI. It was all artificial intelligence that they spent that extra money on, and they still managed free cash flow.
That's incredible.
This is one where they're selling early, and this is not going to be a leap trade for me. This is going to be like a potentially May, a potentially May or June call for me, Hans, because I think that when given time, they're going to be traders are going to be very happy with, or investors are going to be really happy with the quarter that Amazon just produced.
Yeah, they blew it out of the water on those AW estimates. They did fantastic, and that's very encouraging. That's also further evidence that this sort of the spread, the widening of AI usage. Forget about what OpenAI said again. It is absolutely expanding. You can think of Amazon as kind of almost like the super highway. It is kind of the everyman sort of cloud. Businesses, many millions of businesses. Whereas Microsoft a little bit more kind of idiosyncratic, a little bit. Azure has other fingers and everywhere else, but Amazon is really the everyman.
OpenAI committed to consume approximately 2 gigawatts of Trainium capacity. I don't know what that is. Anthropic is going to secure 5 gigawatts of current and future generation of Trainium chips. So it sounds like some sort of chip. This is your area. And Project Hail Mary has grossed $615 million in global box office.
Trainium 2, fully subscribed. Project Rainier deploying 500,000 Trainium 2 chips for Anthropic. Guys, you've got to understand that we've been talking about this scarcity idea. There aren't enough chips. There aren't enough memory chips. NVIDIA They're going to continue to do fantastic. That is the Rolls Royce of chips. But these other companies are starting to do really well, and it's partially because there are not enough of these things around, and these guys are well positioned to take advantage of that. So, in Amazon and Google, they're really sitting in a beautiful position of having so many different layers in their tech stack to offer customers.
Yeah, not getting a huge reaction out of Nvidia after hours. AMD is flat. Interested in Intel, which is just going parabolic right now. But the regular chip makers aren't really reacting yet. You're getting a little bit of bullishness out of some of these data center companies, but nothing crazy. So Amazon is softening up as they talk. Again, if this thing opens down tomorrow, I'm gonna be looking for bull calls to play in Amazon because I think there's money. So Hans, we've now run down Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft. If you had to sum up each of them in, let's say, like 1 or 2 sentences, and kind of how you're gonna approach trading them or creating income around them, give me kind of a rundown of each one. Let's start with Google. What are you thinking on Google?
Yeah, I mean, great results, great reaction. We're actually hitting new highs right now. That's the kind of stability that I'm looking for. I would probably not get in the way of something like a Meta. I'm going to wait, give that sort of the 2-3 day rule, kind of see where that settles. You're probably right. There's going to be an opportunity in there somewhere. But for now, I think they're going to continue to focus on the ones that are working. So I'd be looking at an Amazon on a little pullback, a Google 370 bid right now for Google. So that is heading towards 400. One of my picks of the year as well, along with GEV, that's doubled this year already. By the way, one of our option pit picks. So I like those names to play for sort of little pullback, stable income plays into falling implied volatility. So what we're going to see tomorrow, as is very typical after earnings, is we're going to see a real crush in those shorter terms, those expiries that are very near term, 1 to 2 to 3 month options are going to get crushed, probably even as far as 6 to 8 months will get a little bit crushed. But as the way I like to play these things is there's going to be this kind of echo. So they're going to push them down, and then they're probably just going to kind of edge down a little bit over the next few weeks. And that's where I think there's a really nice opportunity. People kind of get in there and they want to sell that earnings vol, and that can be very, very risky. I actually like the post-earnings play where you can kind of play the news is out, the major move has happened, good news, bad news, we know what it is, and then we can play for a continuation of that compression of option volatility. That's exactly what we do in Turbo Income.
Absolutely. All right. So, so Amazon down. That's is this one you're going to look to do kind of an income play, or?
Yeah, I'd be looking, probably we're going to look at some sub 250 kinds of income structures. On Google, I probably want to let it settle down a little bit. Microsoft is always, I've got a little bit of a hate on for Microsoft just because I'm a bit of an anti-software guy right now. So that one, I want to take a look. I'm long some put spreads in that thing. And they're probably going to get hit too with that implied vol coming in. And it'd be interesting. It looks like Apple's not really doing anything right now. We've got that's coming up still.
But reports tomorrow.
Yeah, no reaction out of Apple right now.
Apple is basically, and I think this was a mistake. Apple has kind of punted on AI, and I think that was a huge mistake. They kind of were ahead of the game with Siri, but Tim Cook is he is a master of engineering, financial engineering, not real engineering.
Right.
Apple needs to get back to making stuff and making new stuff, and not just making you buy the ear pods instead of including them in the case, which makes me super angry.
well, that's, and that's what I think is encouraging about the Tim Cook leaving and somebody coming in. And this guy was very much involved in the physical hardware side of things. So they understand that, probably their wheelhouse is really the physical. Their services, the things like that are doing great, App Store, but they really want to take things to the next level. And this guy is super hyper focused on that stuff. And you know he's going to want to make a statement. So that's a name where I'm kind of liking some income strategies as well. We see that it's kind of finding that floor around 250 to 255. I don't think it gets under there because I think you've got some fairly good news over the next few months with the phones and a few events coming up. So I would be looking to play that as well. So remember, guys, if you're doing income trades, you want to look for stability is very important. You're not always looking for the highest premium. The highest premium is a bit like looking for the highest yield in a dividend stock, which we talked about earlier today. That can be a sign of potential volatility. Something
we have to understand, for instance, on Meta's CapEx.
Sorry, guys, my phone just went off. Just started on its own.
Yeah, it did. It was trying to explain to you Meta's CapEx.
It is. It's an Android. It's not even an Apple. I thought my Apple would have done something. But so you want to look for that stability, and that's really what pays. If you look at some of the studies over time, you can see that really it's the stable income plays that pay. They're not always the highest premium plays. They're the ones that kind of provide you with a combination of that good amount of option premium, but plus that stability and the storyline, the quality of the underlying company, very, very important. That's what's going to lead to success over time.
And you're going to be teaching exactly how to do that tomorrow, how to recognize the difference between a high premium that isn't stable and a good premium that produces stability, creating that income and replacing the bond market that's dead, gold and dividend stocks kind of being moved to your regular investment portfolio. This was something we discussed today. So that is going to, I'm really excited about tomorrow at 1 p.m. because I'm looking to learn as well. I'm a pretty darn good trader, but I am not an expert premium, producer of income. And, I'm looking forward to your guidance. We've got about like a couple minutes here. Does anybody have any specific questions for Hans regarding these four names? One other name that did come out today was Qualcomm. And it's getting a nice move after the close. There's a chip maker that's doing well.
Wow. That's a beautiful move.
Really nice move. So any specific questions for Hans Albrecht, our director, head of income trading?
144. Qualcomm was just 130 just a few days ago, a week ago.
It was a screaming buy. Reaction on S&P futures, not much of one. They're trading, they're basically flat. So nothing.
The whole Google AI eating search thing is kind of being put to rest for these guys as well.
Yeah.
Because we can see that they 60 billion in search versus a 59 billion estimate. That's pretty impressive, Mark, because I don't know about you guys watching, but I use GPT. I use some of these LLMs a lot as compared to using Google. So this is a company that is really, really stick handling that situation very, very well because the revenues are absolutely still there.
Yeah. So the question is, how do we think this affects markets? All right. So Google is the largest of these companies reporting. It's up 6.6%. It was already worth $4.2 trillion. So it's going to be like 4.5 trillion. Google would push the market higher. Now, if all four of these were having blowout earnings and rallying, we'd have a big up day. If all four were down big, we'd have a big up day. We have Google, the biggest of the breed, popping. You have Microsoft, the second biggest, dropping, but it's only down 2%. You have Amazon, the third largest of this group. It's only down 1.7%. And then Meta, the smallest of this group, is down 6%. So when you add those pieces together, right now, it adds up to about nothing. Absolutely nothing. We are likely to, now we're going to get other earnings. We're going to have more news. But The earnings that were released today are going to have little to no effect net on S&P 500 futures. Looking at the triple Q futures,
we should see VIX compress a little bit on that, Mark, right? Because
that's actually a great point. The one thing I know will compress, to Hans's point, is going to be VIX futures. I'd be looking for VIX and VIX futures to be down tomorrow. My prediction is the VIX, if we come in flat tomorrow, you're going to be talking about a 17.5 or lower SIBO volatility index. NAS, S&P probably mostly flat. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions specific to this? Do you agree that Claude Code in the 4.7 version is setting the standard for all competition currently? That is, that's a great question. And we'll close on that. What do you think, Hans?
It is. It has absolutely. Make no mistake, Claude is absolutely charging ahead. We've seen an absolute dramatic flip in the growth of users compared to OpenAI. So a complete flip compared to, say, 4 or 5 months ago. And it is an incredible product. But I will tell you that the race is not over, because Codex from OpenAI is now being talked about as even better than Claude. And so, if you can believe it, because it was Gemini was unbeatable in the fall, and then Claude came along and absolutely destroyed OpenAI. I mean, OpenAI is like, they feel like Mike Tyson just slugged them in the chin over the last few months, and now they're coming back with something great. So it always feels like, something even better is around the corner, and I suspect that it isn't even around the corner. It is for us, because we don't see all the stuff happening behind the scenes. They can't even really release all the greatest models because, we probably can't compute. There probably isn't enough compute to really handle the full force of what these guys have created. And that is both incredible and almost scary, that there's great stuff out there like the Mythos, which we've talked about, which is from Anthropic, which is, so good that they didn't want to release it. It's like dangerous. It's so good. Yes. And so I think we have some incredible things in store. And as soon as you think that somebody's well ahead in the game, and Anthropic absolutely is, because they went after the enterprise business. And so they completely picked the right direction as compared to OpenAI. But the race is nowhere near done. We have a lot more to go.
All right. Any chance we'll debrief tomorrow's earnings? Yeah, tomorrow on the State of the Market show, we'll be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can join us to continue to debrief these earnings. And on Friday, we're going to be doing that as well. I would invite you to join Hans and myself one more time tomorrow at 1 p.m. For the Great Income Reset. Please make sure to join us. You won't regret it. Tomorrow is the day that Hans puts the pedal to the metal and shows you how the broken bonds, the bonds that are dead, gold that is more volatile, and dividend stocks that maybe aren't doing what you want, how he can replace those using his income strategies. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. For Hans Albrecht, our head of income trading, I am Clark Sebastian, one of many options. I am Mark Sebastian, and I am your only option. Have a great day.
See you, folks.